I found you all, which is one of the reasons I was excited to accept this invitation, because you all represent a collection of people who, unbeknownst to yourselves, was fighting for people like me. You're enduring these types of meetings and weighty things because there are people out there who need to hear the preached gospel.
When people say rapper Flame becomes a Lutheran, what is that all about? I understand the sort of sentiment because a lot of people aren't familiar with confessional Lutheran thought. In fact, I was one of those persons. But eventually, as I understood that it's just a group of Christians, number one, and number two, who are preaching the raw, unadulterated gospel, I said, those are my people. And as I moved in that space, now I'm converting my music to articulate those same ideas in the songs.
And I love carrying in my music, in my art form, a message. I like to think of it as edutainment.
So my song Used to Think, it's the last song on the EP Extra Nos. And it was important for me to write it because in it, I wanted to do a bit compare and contrast with what I used to hold to and how I now understand my faith. So what I did, I started off shouting out Dr. Joel Bierman, who I give so much credit for doing the heavy lifting as it related to contrasting Calvinism and Lutheranism. So I had to shout him out at the top of the record. But then afterwards, I took people into my inner journey. Well, I had never heard of Lutheran thought. I mean, I'd heard of the person Martin Luther, but I never understood the nuance and what he brought to the table.
So my friend, he calls me, he's like, Flame, listen, my professor told me to check out Concordia. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I did that, I got online, I scheduled a time to tour the campus. The day rolls around, I show up, super excited. I see this super swaggy Germanic style architecture. And I'm like, yes, this is a good place to study.
So my book, Extra Nos, Discovering Grace Outside Myself. Shout out to Concordia Publishing House. They, published the book, and it's further expanding on the ideas in the music. So I'm talking about justification by faith alone, what it means to be a human, how to be rightly oriented with God. What are the sacraments? How do they play into this good news that God has for us?
I'm literally just handing over what's been handed down to me from my brothers and sisters in the confessional Lutheran space. So again, I'm here to say thank you. I'm here to encourage you to continue to do what God has called you to do in your vocation, and I'm glad to be one that's running alongside of you, telling the world.
When I think of the message, we preach Christ crucified, what I hear in that, oh my goodness, it's loaded. It's loaded with so many things. It's loaded with the reality of God. It's loaded with the reality of his personality, if you will, that he's so involved and engaged with his creation that it breaks his heart when we stray. But he's also moved by love to do something about that straying, not to ask us to do it, not to ask us to try to pull ourselves up and work hard to impress him, but he says, I'm going to do it. I'm going to send my beloved son to live the perfect life that you cannot, to die for the sins and the habits and the vices that you can't overcome, to resurrect from the grave so that you can just simply by faith, this gift that he gives you, receive his love, his care, his forgiveness, his strength.
With no exceptions, he died for our sin. Christ said by faith, you get baptized in. Make some noise in this room, y'all.